Hello, Wellness Warriors. I'm doing something different today. I'm just going to answer questions. And so if there's things that you want me to talk about, that's the agenda for today. I'm super excited to just QQQ and let's answer the questions. I'm going to start off with one that I pulled from our community in the comment section. And I'm going to wait. Well, let's see what else you guys have coming for me. So the first question I have is coming from a video that I did, The Incredible Impact of Eating Eggs Daily. And the person was wondering if on the second week, is it possible that I was hungry because my stomach stretched? And I thought that was a really interesting question to answer because, first and foremost, the most important thing that I can see is that our body does this thing called homeostasis. It tries to keep as much the same as possible. So one day or even a week of me overeating, I don't think is long enough for me to, well, not even that I don't think, I know is not long enough for my body to completely shift what it's doing. For one major reason, what I'm going to start there with, is that when we undereat, so anybody who's done a normal diet, where you eat less than your body needs, when we do that, it takes our body about 6 months to regulate itself and to really say, okay, this is how much food is coming in. I'm going to slow down these processes and I'm going to create the situation where we stabilize again, because apparently this is how much food is going to be coming in. So I don't think that would happen quicker on the other side. If I'm overeating, that my body would go, oh, this is just how much is coming in from now on, and stabilize itself there that quickly. So in my opinion, I don't think that that's what happened. Part one. I think that when our body sees a problem, it's quick to solve a problem. And I think that's more likely what happened. It's like, one thing that I've realized in my journey is whenever I eat something, well, while I was eating poor quality food back on standard diet, when I switched to eating healthy food, all of a sudden, when I tried to reintroduce the unhealthy stuff, I didn't feel great in that reintroduction. So I think what our body is really good at doing is showing us when we're making mistakes. And so if overeating would have been a mistake, my body would have shown me that it was a mistake. I wouldn't have felt good. Versus I eat more and then I'm getting signals to keep doing that, which is how I see what happened. Being hungry is my body's way of telling me, do that some more. So I hope that makes sense. And I feel like that's at least it seems more in line with what biology tells us our body does. Okay, so the next question, let me just move my stuff around here. On the second week, sorry, the next question, I just did that one. So I've been on carnivore 2 years, but also on antidepressants 10 plus years. Does being on this way of eating, I think they're talking about carnivore, help with withdrawal symptoms, with getting off this poison? Very strong words that I agree with. So unfortunately, I don't think that carnivore can protect us from any kind of withdrawal. I don't think that because I'm eating better quality food, toxins coming in aren't still doing something to my body. And so any chemicals that I'm taking in, whether it's a medication or recreational chemical or anything, has negative impact. So it's seen as a toxin to my body. Now, sometimes we want those negative impacts, right? Because they're doing a very specific positive something to counter whatever else is going on with us. But I believe it was a video that I did with Georgia Eid that she pointed out, or I should say she confirmed, that it's not possible for a medication to enter the body and only go to that targeted spot. So when we have withdrawal from medications, it's because not only was it doing what it was supposed to do, it was doing things that cause us to then have reactions that our body's looking for. And if my body's looking for that reaction repeatedly and it doesn't, and it's been getting it, when it doesn't get it, again, that whole homeostasis thing, if you've been on that medication for 10 years, yeah, your body is very used to functioning a certain way. And so it's going to be important for you to take your time while removing the toxin out of your body. And it's the best thing you can do for yourself is to do this with the assistance of your doctor. So I've never encouraged anyone who's on medication, especially been on it for more than 3-4 months, because even 3-4-6 months, it's enough for my body to have gotten used to this stuff coming in and for me to have a problem getting off of it, which is, again, part of the reason that it's so frustrating to me how quickly doctors are willing to give us medication. I feel like we should be much more careful in giving people, in providing people substances that will absolutely have an impact on the way that their body is functioning. So unfortunately, the only way to get past the withdrawal is to live through the withdrawal. I would definitely encourage you to do this with your doctor. Do it at the pace that makes sense for the medication that you're taking. Every medication has a different strength. Your weight has an important role. Oh, by the way, now that I say the weight, another big problem that I see with people who do keto and carnivore is because their doctors don't believe that they are going to stick to the diet, their doctors aren't following their weight loss. And so, and their health improvements, they're not expecting health improvements. So they're not following them more closely. Oh, you're doing keto. Okay. Yeah. And they don't believe you're going to do it. But then when you actually do keto or carnivore and you actually move forward and your health is improving and your weight is coming down, our medication dose is based on weight, Wellness Warrior. So when your weight's improving, but your doctor isn't seeing you because they don't believe you that you're actually going to stick to this healthy way of eating now because you found out that it's better for you, because you actually feel better while you're eating it, because of all the positive reasons to stick to the better diet, because they don't believe you, you might be overdosing on the medication. So it is important, whether your doctor wants to see you or not, if you lose 10, 15 pounds, that you go back to your doctor and just make sure that the amount of medication you're taking isn't too strong for how much you weigh now, especially if you lose a significant amount of weight. So I really hope I hope that's making sense, and I hope that help is helpful. So the next question is, what about electrolytes on carnivore? I do better with a little fruit. I had to think about this one a little bit because I didn't really understand the connection between, I think these are two different questions. So I'm going to answer them that way because that's the way that they seem to me. So electrolytes on carnivore. I don't take any extra electrolytes. The only thing that I take is I salt my food. So I guess that's an electrolyte. But yeah, so I salt my food. And the second thing that I do is I take iodine. So, but I don't take anything else. The only reason that I salt my food and I take iodine is because my understanding is those are the two things you can't get from the meat sources that I eat, which I eat meat, fish, poultry, eggs. So I'm understanding that there's not enough salt, obviously, and there's not enough iodine. So I do think that if you're eating meat, fish, poultry, eggs in the right amounts, then you should be able to get the electrolytes that you need. However, if you're noticing that you're not getting enough for whatever reason, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't supplement. For me, what I've been doing feels like it's been working. I don't have any negatives happening that would make me think I have an electrolyte imbalance of some sort. And if I did, I think that if I needed to supplement, I would. So I take the iodine because apparently there isn't another way to get it. If I could find a way to eat it, I just eat it. And I think that my big encouragement to everybody is to lean towards whole foods. If you can eat things to get what you need, that's the healthiest way to do it. Now, I will totally admit that for the majority of us, we're eating animals that are raised not in ideal conditions. We're eating fruits and vegetables that are not coming from ideal conditions, but they're still leaps and bounds better than processed and ultra processed foods. So if you can not have a powdered something, not have some kind of pill, I think that's the best thing that you can do for yourself. And it's figuring out how to make that happen. I know there are a lot of people, especially when they're trying to restore balance and they need a lot of micronutrients that you might need to lean towards. I forgot to bring my water. You might need to lead towards like liver and organ meats. And a lot of people dislike the taste of those things. I encourage you that if you are eating a healthy, low carbohydrate, like talking keto numbers diet, and you're not messing with processed fun foods in there, I guarantee you that your taste will change. Like that's one thing that's guaranteed. When we stop eating processed foods, our tastes change. And we get to this place where real food actually tastes good. So you'll notice that I said I eat meat, fish, poultry, eggs. I never ate fish before. So let me be clear. Growing up in the household that I grew up in, where I don't have control of my food, it was whatever's on your plate, you're eating it. That's supper, and you don't even have the option of going to bed hungry. You're eating it, and still, with that being my history, I hated fish that much that as soon as I left the household, I never touched fish again. So Pat likes fish. The kids like fish. When they're eating fish, I was having something else. So the fact that I can say fish today is a new revelation for me that my taste buds actually changed. Now, I do know, and I did learn in school, that our taste buds turn over. I believe it's every 6 months that we get new taste buds. They don't all happen at the same time. So it's rolling. And because of that, I think that I always had enough of the taste buds that are trained on sweet stuff that the new taste buds didn't take over and they couldn't allow me to eat things like fish. Well, I can tell you, Wellness Warrior, that I've had fish. I've had other vegetables that I used to feel were like, meh, and they were fine. I mean, asparagus was another something that I wasn't ever eating. Cauliflower was something that I thought was, why do people bother with this thing? There were lots of things during my keto journey that changed, but fish stood out to me because it was dramatic. Like, whereas I was eating vegetables throughout my history because I thought it was healthy to do. And every time I would try to push for weight loss, I would try to eat the fish. Sorry, not the fish, the vegetables. I didn't add fish to my diet when I was trying to lose weight, like ever. I just wasn't doing it. So that's the first thing I'll say to you is allow yourself, if you're doing carnivore, allow yourself the time it takes. And eventually, every once in a while, try the thing that you think you hate. You're going to be surprised that at some point you're going to be like, wow, That doesn't taste bad. And eventually, like, you get to the point, well, I know I got to the point eventually where I was like, it actually tastes good. Um, I do better with fruit is the other piece of the puzzle that I want to talk about. I I'm not sure what that means when you say I do better with fruit. So I have two different ways of seeing this. Part one is it's, I feel like the micronutrients that I'm getting out of fruit helps me to feel good. And if that's your story, if you think of micronutrients is what's helping you to feel good, you can get those micronutrients from eating the right meats. Okay, that's one thing. But if you're saying I feel better with fruit because like you like fruit and having a little bit of fruit keeps you like feeling emotionally stable, then what I'm going to say is that's your addiction talking. And I need us to be honest with ourselves that that's what's happening. Now, I'm not saying that everybody needs to be carnivore. What I'm saying is if you've decided to be carnivore because of health, but then you're feeling yourself being pulled back to fruits and vegetables, or even actually, you didn't say vegetables, you said a little fruit. So that's about sweet. So there's question mark there for me. Now, at the same time, there's nothing wrong with keto. So be keto. Occasionally have a piece of fruit. There's nothing wrong with that. You're still keeping your carb levels at really nice low levels. However, whatever that piece of fruit is, you still need to be aware that if you have, for example, mango, you might end up putting yourself in the position where you are increasing your insulin to a level that's your body struggles. You could increase your inflammation in your body to a level where your body struggles. So I feel like one of the interesting things that I'm understanding about carnivore is that people go carnivore because they feel that that's what they're supposed to do, and then they're not committed. And so then I'm doing this game with myself where sugar is coming in and out, and my body, and it's depending on the frequency at which I'm doing it, I could end up messing with my insulin resistance, which is something that I didn't even know could be a problem until I was listening to Dr. Ovadia talk about this. But apparently, if I have insulin resistance at a very high level, even being carnivore for a month or two or 5 or 10 doesn't mean that my insulin resistance is gone. Apparently, Dr. Ovadia has seen carnivores who were strict carnivore, according to what they reported. We can only go with what people report, for 2-3 years and still were insulin resistant. And what that helps me to think about and understand is that then if I'm insulin resistant, there might be other things that I'm doing in my everyday that are still are still considered healthy carnivore things to do that could be messing with my progress. For example, if I'm putting cream in my coffee because I don't have any other carbohydrates coming in, and I'm thinking that this is fine, this isn't doing anything because I'm carnivore, but not realizing that, yes, I'm carnivore, but the cream in my coffee, because I'm insulin resistant, is still spiking things, is still, right, that little bit of sugar is causing my body to struggle. I know some carnivores think, allow honey. Again, going to cause a problem. So if I'm carnivore, but I'm every once in a while having fruit because, which I still think that's keto. If you're having vegetation, that's keto. So, but if I'm keto and I'm still having insulin spikes, even though I have a very, very, very low amount of carbohydrates coming in, then I need to figure out what extra steps do I need to do to solve my insulin issue. So that is the thing that I'm going to say, Wellness Warrior, is we need to solve our insulin issue. We need to understand that it's about solving insulin. And it's not just about losing weight. It's not just about cleaning up our skin and, you know, it's not about looking a certain way. It's about internal health. If my insulin resistance is still there, that's a problem. I see we have a question that came in. Let me go find that. Um, this is the 4th week. Hold on, let me just adjust myself so I can. Okay. Hmm. So this is the 4th week of carnivore journey. I'm eating 2 meals based on hunger signals, and I am 40 pounds overweight. So wanted to lose that. Wanted to do 1 meal a day. What are my thoughts? So 4th week of carnivore, 2 meals based on hunger. I feel like you're doing a great job. I mean, that's exactly what I encourage everyone to do is eat, first of all, based on hunger rather than eating based on fun or eating based on time. So that's perfect. And with 40 pounds to lose, what I will encourage you to do is understand the situation that you put yourself in. I'm choosing to do carnivore, and I'm going to make the assumption that you're choosing to do carnivore because you were doing keto and you stopped losing weight. This is my guess, but can you give me some more information about that? Is that what happened? Did you stop losing weight? But if you decided to do carnivore because on keto you weren't progressing, how long did you do keto? So it's another piece of information. But what I would say is that how we lose the weight determines how we will keep the weight off. One of the main reasons that I encourage people to be thoughtful about how they create their keto lifestyle, and I call it a lifestyle, is because this is how you will eat moving forward. That your body is going to adjust, right? Your body's going to heal. Your body's going to be in the best possible situation. And then your body will regulate its weight. When my body regulated its weight back in 2019, 2018, actually, I started in 2018. 5 months into doing my keto lifestyle, I was at goal weight, not because my body was wanting to be at a lower weight. I got to goal weight because I stopped eating the things that were causing my inflammation. My inflammation was regulated in less than 3 months. What I mean by that is the painful hip that was causing me not to be able to walk around was no longer happening in less than 3 months. So I didn't even believe that I was going to lose weight because I was actually eating more than I usually eat. So because I did what I was told to do. I ate the right amount of protein for my body, and I ate the right amount of, and I say right amount of protein for my body. What I was told was the right amount, and it was still more than it was not more than I was used to eating, but more than I thought I was going to be allowed to eat. So I was eating the right amount of protein for my body and eating more vegetables, and I was finishing my meals feeling very, very satisfied. And still I lost weight. And all of that I was doing because my goal was to heal myself. So if you have 40 pounds to lose and you focus on losing 40 pounds, my concern is that rather than giving your body time to heal, you're going to be focusing on how quickly is the 40 pounds coming off. And then you might not do it long enough for your body to actually heal you and get you to your proper weight. I see that you gave me more information. Let me just read this. I did intermittent fasting without restricting any food. I am from India. I ate high carb foods. I lost 30 pounds with this lifestyle, but I always struggled with cravings, fatigue, and I started carnivore. Okay, so you did fasting with eating normal foods. And so what I will say to that is that if you started with fasting while eating a high carb, first of all, I understand how hard that is because yes, I understand the cravings you're going to have. And so it makes sense to me that you would have had a hard time getting to goal weight because whenever you reintroduce food, you're reintroducing high carb. And the problem with that, Wellness Warrior, is that high carb equals my body stores fat. So what's happening is when I'm not eating, my body's absolutely going to go in and take some energy from me because that's the reason we have fat on our body. And it's going to take some energy from me because I'm not eating. But then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to eat high carb, and my body is going to say, oh, a lot of energy came in, but a lot of it is sugar, which is toxic. It's going to store it away as fat. So what we're doing is, and what we don't understand that we're doing is that the amount of energy coming in and being stored is outperforming the amount of energy my body can actually turn on and use, because while my body is processing the food that I've eaten, it can't work on healing me. So the other piece of the puzzle is when I'm not eating, the benefit that my body gets is it has time to heal itself, which while it's trying to heal itself, depending on how much fasting that you're doing, so this is another question mark, but while it's trying to heal itself, that's the time where the benefit of not having the toxin come in really helps me. So I know I'm saying a lot of things. I'm going to try to bring it back together. Dr. Ekberg helped me to understand that there's certain lengths of time that we need to fast for the fasting to have the health benefits. Otherwise, all we're doing is pulling a little bit of sugar out of fat storage, but then we end up eating so much sugar that we are storing more than we're pulling out. We'll lose weight for a little while because we're not eating for a period of time, but then eventually it stops happening. And because we're storing so much, right? So he helped me to understand 18 hours is really where you start to get health benefits. So if I'm fasting 12 hours, if I'm fasting, I mean, I know people say fasting overnight, so while I'm sleeping is fasting 8 hours, it's not enough, right? From 12 to 18, that's 6 hours that's there. You're just actually ramping up to what starts to be good outcomes for the body, and that's when most people are eating. So if you are currently eating 2 meals a day based on hunger and you're getting some results, that's perfect. That's perfect, right? What will probably happen at some point is that your body is going to not be as hungry early, and hopefully you can get those meals closer together. But I need you to think about the fact that it's better for the meals to come closer together than to spread them apart. So if you can end up with your meals getting closer together so that you have that 18 hours, and if you can even eventually get to 1 meal a day, the body healing that you will get will be more. And so this is not about weight loss yet. This is about my body healing. Because when my body heals and I don't have the inflammation, I will also weigh a little bit less. Just when I release that water, my body will weigh less. But then as my body continues to heal and I'm eating, so using some of the energy off my body and building better quality me, so muscle, cleaning up my skin, cleaning up my organs internally, cleaning up all the negatives that are happening internally and building better quality parts to me. Again, inflammation is going to come down again. So every time your body has an opportunity to heal something else, inflammation is getting closer and closer to normal. Insulin levels are getting better and better, closer and closer to normal. And when all of your markers are at normal levels, your body can regulate its weight. And then once your body has regulated its weight, if you were successful in getting your cravings to go away, then what that now means is that you're in the ideal story to eat healthy every day. So what we did to get here is what we do to stay here, is the point I'm making, right? Your body will have regulated on this. If you reintroduce toxins, so fruits and vegetables and grains and legumes and nuts and all that, if you reintroduce toxins, chocolate bars, ice cream, all that stuff, your body's inflammation will resume. One of the difficult things for us to accept is how easily our bodies go back to being inflamed. So for myself, when I had that run-in with nuts where I just went off the rails, and my cravings got turned back on, and I was overeating nuts, and I was in pain, Wellness Warrior. It was crazy to me how quickly my body went back to inflamed. And the thing that I understand today that I didn't understand at the very beginning of this journey is that our body doesn't heal overnight. Like, I was damaging my body for 46 years altogether, but 23 of them feeling bad. But my body was being damaged that entire time. It fell apart when I was 46. So for me to think that eating healthy for, the past 6 years is just gonna snap, everything is fine. No, not at all. It takes time. And our body can rebuild itself. It takes about 20 years to completely rebuild itself. I'm only at year 6. So the same way that when I was 6 years old, my body didn't feel horrible to me. It felt fine, right? I wasn't falling apart. It fell apart. I started to fall apart at around 23, and I was crashing at 46. So the same thing's happening here, is that I'm 6 years into my rebuild. I feel pretty good, but when I make mistakes, I feel it, and I feel it right away. When I make mistakes, my body hurts. And yeah, I try not to make mistakes because it's not worth it to me at all to make mistakes. I see another question, another comment here. Hello, Sue. How are you doing? I'm not sure you've spoken on this topic as I just joined the live. I'm wondering if you have issues with digestive issues, more specifically constipation. No, I don't. It's interesting that you're bringing this up, because I was thinking about that earlier. Pat and I were having a conversation, and it's amazing to me how, if I'm eating properly, and my definition of properly, meat, fish, poultry, eggs, with their accompanying fat, when I'm eating properly, I'm in and out of the bathroom for bowel movements so quickly. But I find that it's any time that I eat off plan that I have a struggle. And one of the things that I've said for the longest time to Wellness Warriors is the fact that we've been going to the bathroom without chemical aid for thousands of years. But yeah, all of a sudden we're being told that, we need to take laxatives and all kind. It's not reality. The other thing I like to point out, that I know that most of us at some point in our lifetime would have experienced, you have a really, really fatty meal, and you're running to the bathroom like about an hour or so afterwards, yeah, fat also makes us go to the washroom. So as long as I am careful in choosing my cuts of meat and I make sure that I'm not buying lean meats, and if I do buy a lean meat, that I know that then I therefore have to have like extra bacon in that meal or something to kind of add the fat for myself back. Actually, what I like to do when I notice that I have a few lean cuts in with, because when you buy, packages of pork chops, for example, sometimes the cuts are leaner. Like there'll be a few ones hidden underneath that were less fat on them. Whenever that happens to me, what I like to do is I will make my eggs scrambled eggs instead of just normal over eggs. And the reason I do that is that when you scramble eggs, obviously you pick up all the fat that was in the pan. So I'll just use some of the fat from the frying that I did, put it back into my eggs, scramble it together. That way I know I get the fat back, as much fat back as possible. Um, so these are things that I've learned to do to help myself to make sure that I get enough fat in. Um, and because I do one meal a day, so I want to make sure that I get enough protein, enough fat, and enough of the things. Hello, Kate. How are you doing? Have you figured out how to stop the sugar cravings the first week keto carnivore? Okay, so I feel like this is a little bit of a trick question. To stop the sugar cravings. So I think that if we're doing a carnivore, so let's do keto because that's the more likely time that you're going to. If you do keto and you are at keto numbers, you're probably, so standard diet, keto numbers, you're very likely going to live some withdrawal in the middle between those two things. If you allow yourself to go through the withdrawal and you do not cheat, if you do not, you just let yourself go through the withdrawal, you eat only healthy keto foods. At the other side of that, when you're finished with your withdrawal and everything, the physical cravings will be gone. So now we're talking about like psychological cravings. I see a commercial and I want to eat the chips, or someone's talking about the ice cream they're going to go get and I want to go get some too. So these ideas that come from like I'm thinking about something and then I'm telling myself that would taste good. And the thing that I found, and this is not even just first week. This is across the board. The thing that I found that stops these psychological cravings is being absolutely honest with myself about what it would mean to eat the thing that I'm talking about. So what that looks like is, let's say that I thought about, cookies would be good, or I want an apple even. Let's make it a healthy something. Healthy. I want an apple. Well, what would that apple do to me in terms of like, am I going to feel good after I eat the apple? Am I going to be chasing and out of control again? So sometimes we actually need to fall down to really see that that's true. I know it happened to me where, again, the whole nut situation, I had been so on target, so good. Everything was fine, fine, fine. And then those nuts derailed me and I was overeating them. I was feeling horrible. My body wasn't feeling good. Not everybody has pain like I have. So some people it's weight. And if it's weight, that means that you probably overeating for a week or two by the time you notice the scale moved. And that's problematic. So it becomes even more important for me to have that conversation with myself. Like, am I trading eating this fun thing for all the progress that I know I've already made? That I'm eating on plan, that I'm losing weight, that my body is healing, that I'm thinking more clearly, that I'm sleeping better, that like when we really allow ourselves to have the true conversation of what would I be giving up to eat this thing, this fun thing, it changes the psychological part. Because I could tell you for myself, the first few times that I didn't feel good after my carb count was a little high, and for me it wasn't because I had eaten something fun. It was because I allowed my carbs to be higher. Like I hadn't weighed them properly. Well, I had weighed them, but I hadn't actually paid attention to the fact that I was over my number. And when I started to realize that, oh, every time that I'm eating more than 20 grams of carbs, I don't feel good. I stopped letting myself do that. I actually started to pay really close attention. And eventually I learned something else, because then eventually I was like, oh, I was so sure that I was at my 20. And I started to realize that, wow, every time I let myself go over 18, I don't feel good. And eventually I took a decision that, yes, on my keto lifestyle, 18 is feeling kind of not great. I'm only going to eat 10 grams of carbs per day. And I did that switch. I changed the way that I was eating, and I made it that I only had 10 grams of carbs per day, because I understood that the carbs were on my plate for fun anyway. It was the meat, fish, poultry. Well, I wasn't eating fish at that time. So the meat, poultry, and eggs that I was eating that were actually what was helping my body to heal. And by that point, I fully understood that. And the carbohydrates were for fun. And so therefore, I didn't need to have many. I just needed to have enough that helped me to feel like I had a meal. I hope that this is clarifying that. So those cravings, I would use them to help me to see where maybe I had too much carb in my diet. So in the last few days, because if I'm having the right amount, physical cravings shouldn't be there. And if it's because I'm thinking about it, and I make the distinction of physical cravings and like physical cravings, like I feel that in my body, like I feel chasey. I feel like it's not just that I saw something and thought about it for a second and I can have a conversation with myself. No, it's like my body is pulling me towards eating that thing. That's telling me that you still have too much carbohydrate. One thing, wellness warrior, that I want you to understand is that 20 grams of carbs or less, it's the or less that matters. Keto is actually technically defined as 50 grams of carbs or less when you're looking at like how it's defined. The reason most doctors tell us 20 or less is that they acknowledge that for the average person, if you're getting 50 grams of carbs in your daily diet, you're still getting enough to keep your insulin out of control, to keep your body out of ketosis, and to keep you chasing. That's why they say 20 or less. And I was one of those or less people. I actually needed to be at 18 or less, and I didn't risk any longer trying to figure out, well, is it really 15? Is it really 12? I didn't like feeling pain. I went down to 10, and I stayed there for more than 3 years, I believe. I was there. And then eventually, and then when I say less than 10, more than 3 years, and the last year and a half of me, my less than 10 was, I can't remember how many olives I was eating, like 10 olives if I had olives, or one avocado. That was my carb. That was my carb for a meal if I had carb with my meal. And why? Because those were the last two things that I still, quote unquote, like to eat, that still tasted good to me. And I didn't know that avocado was horrendously high in oxalate. So if I had known that, I probably would have thrown that out long before. But that was what I was doing, because that was what I understood to be the healthiest thing I could do for myself. So I did it. I'm encouraging you to do what's healthiest for you. If you're having sugar cravings, the first thing I would look at is how much carbs are coming in. Oh, and are the carbs that are coming in tasting sweet in my mouth? Because that's another part of the psychological. When we eat sweet fruits, so things that taste sweet keep my brain trained towards sweet. So peppers, um, trying to think of other like if you're eating fruit, like all fruit, that's sweet. So if you're eating fruit, if you're eating sweet vegetables like peppers, like all I'm trying to think of another sweet, like, even cashews tasted sweet to me, which was another sign for me that I had to stop eating them. They were tasting sweet. When you eat anything or drink anything, if you're having diet soda, it tastes sweet. If you're having flavored waters, that taste sweet. Those things can be triggering your psychological pull towards sweet and causing you to chase. And if you're chasing, you're not going to succeed at the goal that you have for yourself. So Raji says, I am feeling great, lighter with more energy, better sleep without any weight loss. Without any weight loss. Okay. I did not check the weight, but clothes are getting tighter. Okay, so you're having better sleep, more energy. You feel lighter, but you feel like your clothes are getting tighter. I mean, what it makes me wonder about, and this is just a question mark, is if you're feeling lighter, that probably means that you're having some energy and strength. And if you're having more strength, my question mark is, could you have put on a bit of muscle in this process of eating more animal protein? Because you said you're in India. And so I know that that's right. So could you put on some muscle? If that's the case, yes. If I haven't lost, I know, a significant amount of fat yet, but I put on muscle, yes, my clothes will feel a little tighter. I wouldn't worry about that though. If you're eating carnivore and you're actually doing it correctly, you're not doing processed, ultra processed stuff. If you're eating just meat, fish, poultry, eggs, whatever combination that you're able to eat over there in India, and that's all you're having, and you're having 2 meals, and you're eating an adequate amount. And so what I mean by that is depending on how you're spicing your, oh, I would also question, like, how are you spicing these things? The more plants we put on our meats to spice it, the more possibility that there could be carbohydrates. So you should be checking how you're spicing your stuff and using that to, because those carbs count, right? Even though we're doing carnivore, we still want to try to make sure that our carbs do not go over 20 grams of carbs, right? So if you're doing carnivore, but the spices and the way that you're making your meats, it's still coming up to more than 20 grams, you're still going to have insulin resistance. You're still going to have problems with your body. So I just want to make sure I point that out. But there is a possibility that you haven't lost any fat, but you've gained muscle. I hope that helps. If you have more to add to the story, you can give me more information and I'll try to talk it through a bit more. But in my mind, at the other thing that you said that makes me not as concerned is that you're on the 4th week. So it's not realistic to believe that what I built up on my body with 20, 30 years, I'm going to lose in 4 weeks. That's not realistic. I'm an outlier, wellness warrior. The fact that I was able to lose 80 plus pounds in 5 months is the outlier scenario. Most people will slowly, their body will slowly heal them. And I honestly feel like a good part of the reason I was able to do that was because my big issue was inflammation. And by removing the toxins and allowing my body to heal and getting rid of the water weight that was on me because I was inflamed, and then getting rid of the fat that was on me. And maybe there was more water than I even understood that there was, right? And so I was able to get my body back faster. Uh, wow, the Karen Yaga. I hope I said that right. Greetings. New here, trying ketovore. So you're trying keto for weight loss specifically, tiptoeing my way to potentially carnivore. Okay. Coming from primarily vegetarian. Ooh, and fruit vegetable juicing. I would definitely encourage you, if you're doing, well, first of all, everyone should be doing this for health, because a healthy body regulates its weight. And I will never stop saying that. A healthy body regulates its weight. So, since you are coming from vegetarian, I would really encourage you to do keto and just do keto for a while. Let yourself get used to and back to like just eating healthy meats again. And once you feel super stable on keto, yeah, you can just slowly remove veg from your diet. I think the interesting thing about carnivore is that if you do it slowly, like if you just slowly go from eating what I did, I went from eating 20, no, I went from eating 350 grams of carbs daily before I started keto. In my keto life, I probably started around 60 or 70, and I was hovering there until I was finally, after a few months, able to get myself down to 20. And then I was doing 20 consistently. And and by the way, when I was doing 60 or 70, I lost weight. I wasn't even in my keto numbers. I didn't know. I wasn't weighing my stuff yet, because I didn't. Again, I started for pain management. And so I just jumped right in. I did not weigh my stuff, and still had keto flu, by the way. So withdrawal, I don't know why I called it that, but withdrawal, I still had that. Um, Even though I was only at like 60, 70 grams of carbs, I wasn't near my 20. So just to tell you how bad the amount of sugar is that I was eating, that we are eating, is for his system, that we're having withdrawal symptoms at 60 or 70. But this is why doctors say 50 is not enough. It's not. You need to be 20 or less. So if you do keto and you're feeling really good and you're feeling really stable and everything's going well, and then you just go from doing 20 down to doing 18, my trajectory was 20 to 18, and then 18, like when I noticed that it was 18, I was like, wow, okay, if I'm staying there. And I really just noticed this because I was logging what I was eating, which is another interesting thing for you to know, Wellness Warrior, that once I started logging, I didn't stop logging until I was only eating avocados and olives, because I knew exactly how much, like I was eating one avocado and 10 olives. Like I knew how much it was. I would just like weigh the avocado to see that it was around what I thought it was, and I knew how much it was. That's when I stopped actually. That's when I stopped actually tracking. And when I say avocado, I don't mean guacamole. I mean avocado with salt. That was it. And I did that for over a year and a half, just avocados and olives. So what by the time I was like 5, 6 grams of carbs, right? And so that's when I stopped tracking. And letting go of that last bit, that little bit of it, I did it overnight. It was just like, okay, I'm not eating that anymore. I learned it wasn't healthy. I stopped. You can do it. It's a matter of letting yourself get stable where you are first. So I would not be coming from vegetarian and then like jumping over keto trying to get to carnivore. I would do keto, and I would do keto for a while. And I mean I did keto right up until February. And when I took the avocado and olives out of my diet, was the day that I switched to being carnivore. So, I mean, prior to that, I had many carnivore days, though, where I would switch back and forth between doing keto with my avocados. So, yeah, my avocados and my olives. So, doing that. And it was one or the other, by the way. So, I'd either have 10 olives on my plate with my meat, or have some avocado on my plate with my meat. Um, and then I went straight for it. I think it's best to do it slowly, because if you're going to have any reactions, you're going to be able to see like what foods are affecting you in what way. Because my tracking is also what helped me to understand that I have a huge problem with nightshades, and I don't spice anything. Well, now I only use salt for spice, but when I was spicing my meats, I wasn't spicing them with paprika or any peppers or anything, because I realized I have such a problem with nightshades. My joints get painful, and it's just a bad story. Hello, Kate. Which veggies do you incorporate? Thanks a bunch. I no longer incorporate. So actually, I'll go to this other question that I had also, just because I feel like it's the same thing. This person asked me, um, is that the right one? Yeah. How long have you eaten only meat and meat products? So that would have been since February of this year. So I no longer, K-Day, I no longer eat any vegetation. However, if you'd like to know what vegetables I used to eat, um, I used to eat anything that was low glycemic that wasn't a nightshade. So if I liked the taste of it, I'd have eaten it if it wasn't a nightshade. And my encouragement to you, if you're doing keto, it sounds like you must be if you're asking me about veg, is eat the ones that taste good to you and that don't cause you to have a physiological reaction, right? Because I think that's the other piece of the puzzle is that for me, that physiological reaction that I was having to nightshades caused me to, um, well, the pain that I was in, but then also it helped me to start to understand that there was more to what I was trying to clean up than just sugar. Plants have chemicals in them that we react to, right? That they are toxic to us. And so that was the other piece of the puzzle. And me trying to figure out and minimize the pain that I was in, I kind of whittled my way down to just having olives and avocado until I found out that there was high levels of oxalates left in avocado. And I was just like, you know what? I feel like there's always going to be something. So let me just get rid of them. So I'm going to actually jump to this other this other question that I had too, because I think it's relevant. Where is it? The question here is it says, to be clear, did you remove sugar from your diet indefinitely or just cut back my intake? And I will say that I've removed it pretty much indefinitely. I really cannot see myself going back to eating that stuff. Although like I'm one of those people that says I'll never say never. Like I could totally see the day that if I was in a tropical place and they had avocado trees and I could pick a ripe avocado where the oxalate count is like super, super, super low, as what they tell us online before they trick us. And we're eating them that are picked when their oxalate count is super high. But if I could pick it straight from the tree, I'd have avocado, 100%. I don't know if I would do olives. Maybe if I could pick it straight from the tree, probably I would have an avocado and I would have an olive. But would I be looking to have it in my diet all the time? No, I think for me that would be the ultimate treat, that I would have avocado with some salt picked straight from a tree onto my plate, the ultimate um treat. But I know for sure that I wouldn't be looking for that as something that I'm doing. So meat, poultry, fish, eggs, absolutely, Kate. That's absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Sue. I appreciate you coming by and asking questions. Carla Walker, my problem, eating just meat, I can't sleep at night. I'm not really sure why that would be. 4 hours will not do it. My problem is eating just meat. I can't sleep at night. I'm not really sure why you would have trouble sleeping at night, Carla. You're throwing me a little bit of a curveball here. I'm trying to think for myself. If you're here, Carla, can you give me more details about what's happening? I'm kind of curious. I'm not really sure why you're not able to sleep. Because I mean, honestly, I've been eating only meat, and this is the best sleep I think I've ever gotten. So I'm just wondering, like, is it related to something else? Because, like, what are the things that would cause us to have trouble sleeping? So one thing that would come to me is that perhaps if I'm still hungry, I would have trouble sleeping. So my first question is it possible that you're not eating enough? And that's why you're having trouble sleeping because you're hungry? I do feel that most women undereat their protein. Actually, I had a question. Um, one of my questions was about protein intake. Um, but yeah, like I feel like most women undereat their protein because we've been told that you should have a fist-sized amount of protein. And it's like that's not reality, wellness warrior. Like one thing that I've learned is that Doctor, I never can remember this guy's name. Gonna drive me nuts. But there's a doctor that he got interviewed. I saw an interview with him, and he was talking about the fact that when the the minimum dietary requirements were made, they were talking about minimums. They're talking about what you can't be less than that or you're going to get sick. They're not talking about what was healthy for you to have. And I definitely feel like his explanation of the fact that women are told to get like less than 1 gram of protein, 1 gram of protein per, like, so 1 gram of protein per pound of body fat that we're told to get. Is that right? Yeah. And that doesn't make sense. He's saying like we need, first of all, at the minimum 1 to 1. He said an active woman at, should be probably can even be as high as 2 to 1. And he's like men, the same thing. Is like men is like 1.5 to 2.5 or something like that. But his numbers were so different than the numbers that like I was ever told. And so when I started to look at it, it's like, even if I do 1 to 1, which is what he's saying, like that should be the minimum. Well, then that means like whatever your healthy weight is supposed to be, that's the protein number that you should be aiming at versus what we're typically told women. Okay, now I remember what we were told. We're typically told we should be aiming at the lean body mass of our healthy weight. So, for example, if your healthy weight is 150, your lean body weight would probably be something like 130 or like one, you know what I mean? Like it's too low. So this is where you get these numbers where even in my calculator, I think my was even lower than that. Like my calculator was telling me 90 grams of protein is what I needed, which is so ridiculously low for me. Like it's not even near like my lean body number either. So the numbers that we get in these calculators when we're calculating our foods they tend to be off, which is part of the reason that when I was using them and when I talk about them, I always say you're tracking carbohydrates and then you should be eating to satiation if you're doing keto, or fullness if you're doing carnivore, as we've been instructed, because those other numbers that they have written there, they don't make sense 99% of the time. The other thing is, how do you manage to figure out how much fat, right? Like ginger beer. I am 64, 65 pounds to lose, serious inflammation, um, insulin resistant, constant cravings, take a huge amount of brain health plus supplements, Huntington's gene, yo-yo dieter. Where do I begin? I'm not sure if you're telling me. So are you doing keto already? If you are, then I would begin with not yo-yoing. That would be my beginning spot. If you're doing keto already, commit to your keto and put your eyes only on keto. Why am I saying that? You're 64. If you have 65 pounds to lose, but you yo-yo diet, my guess is that when you yo-yo out of keto, that means that you end up gaining weight. And so it'll be 70, it'll be 75 pounds, it'll be 80 pounds. Maybe you're back to what you weighed before. And versus if I just stick with keto, at the minimum, I stay where I am. At the maximum, if I stick with keto and actually do it, I start losing weight. So if you get to the point where you're 60 pounds overweight, that's better than being 65. If you get to the part where you're 50 pounds overweight, that's better than being 65. I would encourage you, do keto, commit to keto. Like, put your mind around that this is what I'm doing and I'm doing it going forward. Now, if you do keto and you're feeling really good on keto and you get to your goal weight on keto, understand that I keep eating keto. What got me here keeps me here, right? And it's about choosing the healthy foods. It's about not playing games with myself. So I just encourage you to do the right things, eat the right foods, and you'll be fine. Like, do I need to do something bigger? No, you don't need to. If you decide that once you've done keto for 2 or 3 years or 4 years that you want to go and do a bit lower carb count, it doesn't even have to be carnivore. If you just say, you know what, I'm confident in myself that I could get rid of these things that are not maybe causing me to have a rash, or maybe there's some other reason that you want to get rid of something else. Yeah, you could, but do you have to? Not at all. If your body starts feeling good there, stay there. Now, if you tell me that you do keto for 3-4 years and you don't yo-yo out, if you're keto 3-4 years and you still have weight to lose, then maybe I would be like, okay, yeah, I would definitely look at. It doesn't even have to be 3 years. If you do keto for a year and you still have weight to lose and you're not losing, if you're losing the entire 4 years, keep doing what you're doing. Why would you stress yourself at 65? If I'm losing and my body's feeling good, I'm able to do my activities, and I'm feeling, my brain is functioning well, and if everything is in the right direction, the only thing that you need to do is keep doing what you're doing. That's it. You only need to change it if for some reason it stops working. If it stops working, yeah, then I would say, okay, then we change something. So if you get to the point at some point where you're like, wow, okay, it's been, and how long does it need to be? It's not a stall unless you haven't lost any weight in 6 weeks to 2 months. If you go a week without losing, that's not a stall. And your body will lose, put on, lose, put on. That's also normal. We need to let our body do what it does, because sometimes you're going to put on weight because you're gaining muscle, which is a healthy thing for your body to do. And we get all freaked out and we're trying to push weight loss. No, sometimes I need to gain a bit because my body needs to build me. So this is the other piece of the puzzle. You have 65 pounds to lose, we think. You might not, but we think. But as your body is losing weight, as your body is building good muscle on you so that you can be healthy, because women with more muscle on their bodies live longer. It's all things that we need to understand and encourage our body to do. So your weight might look like it's not moving, but how are my clothes fitting? I encourage people to take measurements, because you're not going to really know unless you're measuring, because your body might be staying still for a little while because it's healing things in you. And your weight might be staying still for a while because you've lost weight, but you've put on muscle. And so it balanced itself out. If I'm not measuring, I won't know. So again, these are important things for us to check. And the last thing I'm going to say, Ginger Bear, is you also might be in a scenario where you get to be, let's say, 20 pounds away from your goal, and you stop losing, and 7-8 months go by and you haven't lost anything. You're 7 pounds away from your goal, but your body might be saying, no, this is where you belong. And the question is, when I do my measurements, when I'm putting on clothes, do I look fine? Because maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. So I could try to force my body to go down more. It might fight me and then I might be in a bad situation. Putting that out there because I think we need to think about that. And it might be where my body needs to be for now. There's another thing I've noticed is that if I take myself as the example, I was at goal weight 5 months into my keto journey. And I lived at that weight, exactly that weight. Well, vacillating that five-ish pounds, like so 2 pounds to 3 pounds up or down. I lived that weight for 5 years. 4.5 5 years. I lived that weight. And then went on vacation, lost 5 pounds, came back, did the egg thing, and I've been stable at that loss of 5 pounds ever since by eating more. These are things that don't make sense for what we've been told, calories in, calories out. The more you eat, the more you gain. And yet I ate more protein because on my vacation, knowing that there would be lots of garbage and lots of fruit, I focused on protein. I ended up losing weight. So I definitely think that if we allow ourselves to focus our attention on the healthy things, rather than focusing our attention on trying to just lose weight, we end up doing great things for ourselves, right? So I'm encouraging you to do your diet. And the supplements that you're doing for brain health, if they're helping, terrific. I think that we need to do what makes sense for us. You need to do that all the time. I want to take a moment to, how do I do that? I want to take a moment to thank the people that support the channel, because without you guys, I wouldn't be able to, take an hour to do this kind of stuff. So I really do appreciate it. And if anybody would like to support the channel, help me to do research and bring more topics to you, obviously you can do super chats here, but also there's a link in my description to, to come on and become one of these people if you want to get your name on the screen and be a supporter long term. I really do appreciate it. So all the wellness warriors that do that, thank you very, very much. And the next thing I want to talk about, I lost my place. Let me go back. There we go. Okay, so I'm very happy that you love my content. Thank you very much. Sonia, hello. Hi, listening and watching from Houston, Texas. Great. I really, so many people in Texas. And Texas has the opportunity, all the steakhouses you guys have, is such an opportunity for carnivores. Thank you for sharing your experiences and your journey. This is my question. Did or do you use a food scale? Yes, I do. If yes, is it best to weigh raw or cooked? I weigh raw. So, and I still weigh my food because, well, since learning that I was under eating my protein, I've been slowly trying to add more protein in. So I used to eat a pound of meat per day. Now I'm at 500 grams and I still have 4 eggs per day. Sometimes I'll add bacon to that. So this is on top of the pound of meat. The bare minimum I have is a pound of meat. And then it's like my side dish is either going to be eggs or it's going to be a little bit of bacon or some scallops. I do that sometimes. And if I'm doing fish, it's a pound. Well, now it will be 500 grams of fish. And then I have the same side dishes usually. Do I have other side dishes? No, it's usually eggs. Actually, 99.99% of the time I have eggs as my side dish, my 4 eggs. And just like I used to have rice all the time, right? Like to me, it's no different. I cook up some eggs. sometimes scrambled, depending on how much fat I'm trying to recuperate, depending on like the cut of meat and how much fat was on the meat. So yeah, so I use my food school scale every single day without fail. Judy B, hello, what a nice name. Um, PA listener here. Oh, I'm not PA. PA. I'm not sure what state is that, a state? Pens not. My US stuff is not great. Been watching for a while, 63 years old, 60, 70 pounds to lose. Okay. Inflammation is an issue. The reason I started keto was to help myself with my inflammation. And it worked so quickly. It just blows my mind that I suffered for years, did chiropractic appointments. I didn't take medication because I don't do well on medication. I just feel horrible. But I did chiropractic appointments for years. I have not been to the chiropractor in years, wellness warriors. Since I was still going a little bit after I started my keto journey, but I think like 2-3 years ago I stopped going. I was like, I don't need it any longer. Although like there are certain adjustments that are just about adjustments and they're not about like being sore. I'm not sore is the point I'm making. And I haven't been in yours. So if inflammation is your situation, I would definitely encourage you to look at all the inflammatory things. So what I've learned are inflammatory things. First and foremost, carbohydrates, very inflammatory. And then but the very worst inflammatory thing that we don't think about is those seed oils. And both carbohydrates and seed oils have the ability to push our insulin resistance. I don't even understand the seed oil part, but it does apparently. And so if you can decrease the seed oils, which would mean not eating ultra processed foods, which would mean not going out to restaurants that cook with that cook with seed oils, which is almost all of them. But although sometimes if you go to the nicer restaurants, you can ask them to please cook your meats in butter, and they will do it if they have butter. But nicer restaurants tend to have butter. But yeah, like I was even shocked to learn that my favorite restaurant that we go to that talks about having oh my god, garlic butter. We just asked the waiter if the garlic butter was actually butter, just because we were kind of curious. We don't usually order garlic butter, but we were just curious to know, is the garlic butter actually butter? And it turns out it's canola oil. That is so hilarious to me that their garlic butter is not even butter. Can you give us examples of 18 grams of carbs? Thanks. So are you talking about for my meals? It honestly, 18 grams of carbs can be anything you want. If you're eating broccoli, it's a matter of doing the math and figuring out how much broccoli can I eat for 18 grams. So if I take my calculator here and I just look for my my tracker, and honestly, wellness warrior, this is something that anybody can do. You just do. I'm gonna do broccoli because that was one of my go-to veg when I was eating. So if I put it to grams, so 100 grams of broccoli is giving 4 net carb. And I was doing that, by the way, the entire time that I lost my weight and my entire progress through keto, I was doing that. If you're doing total, you'll have to like do your math for that. But I'm just going to tell you for me what it was. So 100 grams is 4. And if I was having broccoli that day, I probably would have been able to have about 400 grams. 400 grams is 16. So I could have had like what, 450, almost a pound of broccoli. Yeah, a pound of broccoli is 18 grams of net carb. And honestly, that's what I would do. I would just go through and I would like say, how much could I put on? I'd weigh it. It's like, oh, it's that much. And I would check first to know what am I able to put on my plate. So it's not about, it honestly is You know what you like to eat. It's about weighing out your stuff and knowing, okay, I can have this much of this thing or that much of that thing. But for your entire day, it needs to add up to less than 20 grams of carbs. So are you doing that? Are you making sure that for your entire, it's not per meal, it's per day? And I think that's another mistake that new people to keto lifestyle make, is that they think it's per meal. No, 18, 20 grams of carbs per meal is giving you 60 per day, which doctors clearly tell us is more than enough to keep us in insulin trouble, inflamed, and having all kinds of problems. Uh, a healthy body will regulate its weight. I will keep this in mind. Thank you. And yes, exactly. I'm trying to go slow and steady to win the race. That's perfect. That's perfect. Thank you for letting me know that that helped Kiri and Yaga. And you said, why no veggies? Because on a carnivore lifestyle, which is what I'm doing, we don't eat vegetation. That's part one. But the other reason is that I found out that the vegetables that I was eating were having negative impact. So I had already dropped most of my vegetation. Well, can I back up a second and just say that even when I was doing standard diet, I was not eating much vegetation. That wasn't a thing for me. So it's not hard, and it wasn't hard for me to let go of the fruits and vegetables. And fruits I wasn't even touching. At least I was eating some vegetables on standard diet. I was not touching fruit. It was never a thing. But all plants, to answer your question, Deborah, all plants have chemicals in them that are harmful. And that's the reason. So I've let them go because they're not giving me anything positive, and they give so many negatives. So do you think there must be some veggies due to healing the microbiome, the gut bugs? Michaela Peterson reminds me that when fully lion, the gut can't heal. I don't believe that to be true, first of all, because my experience, and I can only talk about my experience, is that in the first of all, in the 2 months that I tried carnivore the original time, which was a few years ago, I went carnivore for 2 months. I felt amazing. And then when I reintroduced vegetables, my my intestines were just in knots, and it was a bad time, and bathrooming and all kinds of things. Now, I did weather the storm and let them back in, but not all of them. And I took a conscious decision that if this is the way that my body's reacting to me reintroducing them, I'm only reintroducing the ones that I like, and I'm only introducing the lowest glycemic ones. And that's it, that's all. And so at that point in time, I was doing broccoli and salads and avocado and olives, cauliflower as well, and cabbage. That was all that came back. All the leafy greens and all that, I didn't bring back any of the kale and the spinach, and none of that came back. So fast forward a few months, or actually about a year and a half, when I was reminded from Sally Norton, because I had found that out in year two of my keto journey. I had learned about oxalates, didn't act on it. And then fast forward to like a year and a half ago now, I was reminded, or even closer to 2 years now, I was reminded about oxalates. And that's when I really looked at what I was left in my diet. And I said, you know what? I started bringing the rest of the veg out. And I only understood fully the avocado problem, because avocados look like they're okay. But then when you understand how they're picked, you learn that they're not okay. And that was what prompted me to take the avocado and olives out. But in all fairness, to go back to the point that I was like, why no veggies? And sorry, this idea of the microbiome. When we when our body is healing itself and then we reintroduce something, and so I reintroduced those things, I was not doing well, but my body got used to it again. I've gone back to carnivore and I feel better again. But here's the thing. Am I sick? Am I having reactions? No. I think part of the problem, and I don't know all of Michaela Peterson's um issue, but what I do know is that she also had a lot of interventions before she figured her food thing out. I'm lucky enough that I've only taken a few medications ever in my life. And I didn't take them for long because I didn't feel well. And I'm that person, right? I'm that person that you could tell me that this is what I need, all you want. But if I'm taking it and I'm feeling bad, I'm not going to take it. Because especially if the initial symptom is not as bad as this, right? So there were a lot of things that I was given to take for different things that they found in me that I said, you know what? I feel worse taking it and I don't feel bad with this symptom you're telling me that I have. I'll live with the symptom. Now fast forward to today. First of all, listening to my body, I learned that I was right because I was put on a few medications that now that we know that I have thalassemia, being on iron pills, yes, the doctor said that was a bad idea. Okay, fine. So I was right to listen to my body. And I feel like because Michaela had interventions where she's actually had surgeries. And so therefore, if you've had surgery, you typically are taking medications, which I don't know how many of the medications she's still taking. Then yes, the food that you're taking in or not taking in and your gut microbiome now is impacted by those medications. I feel like we all too often are ignoring the fact that medical interventions actually do stuff. And because they actually do stuff, we need to respect that our body's still reacting and trying to solve this foreign scenario that's there. And now it has made adjustments for the fact that we're taking these medications or that this metal something is in our body or this right like or that we've diverted like from my stomach, diverted some energy around my stomach and my stomach, all these things that we do that interfere with our body's ability to process. It's still going to try to fix, it's still going to try to process, and it now creates new problems. And the part that's hard is that every person's problems will look slightly different, right? Like how I react to cashews might be slightly different than how you react to cashews. Like, and I react to them. The way that I react to nightshades is different than how you react to nightshades because I react to them. So it's not just about vegetables are needed for the microbiome. Like that's the part that's really interesting. Whatever you eat is going to impact your microbiome. I don't eat vegetables, so they don't impact my microbiome. The meat that I eat does. The salt that I eat does. The eggs, the poultry that I eat does. And if that wasn't healthy, well, then all the other animals that eat one thing would be having problems. Because we are animals just like all the other animals. So our microbiome, and I honestly can't see any reason to think of it any other way than this. Our microbiome is fed on whatever we eat. And it changes quickly because within 2 months, I was able to change mine. And then I was able to change it back. And now I've changed it again. So it changes relatively quickly. Right? Not overnight, for sure. But within 2 months, we're bringing back that food. I had a huge reaction. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. Thank you, Kay. So many videos telling different things and confusing. I really love your videos. Very detailed explanations. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you telling me that because I do try to be clear. And it's encouraging to me. Thank you. I do try to be clear. I know that my videos are long. As you see, my live streams they're not flooded with people. I try to give a full explanation to the best of my ability, because I think like the way that I think it out, some is going to help somebody else to think it out. And I'm open to knowing if I'm making a mistake. Like I'm always in here. Like I ask questions too. I'm always asking questions on other people's channels. Like the only way to know what's working is to pay attention. And I definitely try to pay attention to my body and my reactions. I try to pay attention to what I'm learning and what the doctors are saying and trying to make it all come together and make sense. And so thank you. I really do appreciate that. Oh, thank you, Katie. I appreciate that. What of dairy? Hmm. So I recently learned from Dr. Eid, Georgia Eid, she's a psychiatrist, that dairy has some interesting properties. Actually, Sally Norton talked about it too, I believe. That dairy has some interesting properties that we don't take into consideration enough. Whey protein. So Dr. Eid pointed out to me that there's whey protein in dairy, and that she very specifically points out that milk has a purpose, whether it's human breast milk or cow's milk or goat's milk or whatever kind of milk. The purpose is to rapidly grow the animal it's for to its adult size, or as close to adult size as possible. And I think the thing that we are possibly ignoring is that human breast milk is growing a baby in the course of a year. It takes a whole year for our human breast milk to grow a baby to toddler size, where cow's milk grows a cow within weeks to calf size, like where it can start eating grass. And, Georgia made the interesting point of like, these things are causing us to gain weight, and we're just ignoring it, right? So, we absolutely are on an obesogenic diet, wellness warrior. When you do the standard American, Canadian, Chinese, whatever diet, it's an obesogenic diet. We eat things that absolutely is causing weight gain, and we ignore that we're eating things that are causing weight gain. And then we struggle. We absolutely struggle, and we don't know why. And I'm suggesting that part of the reason that we're struggling is because we're not allowing ourselves to see that there's no good reason for us to still be having dairy products, even though we still all have them. And then you add to that some of us are so insulin resistant that we end up reacting to certain of these dairy again, insulin resistant, inflamed. Like, what's the reason that we end up reacting? I'm not even 100% sure. I'm not a doctor. I just like, I like listening to this stuff. I like working it out in my head. But one thing that I think I've worked out for myself is that there's zero reason for me to ever drink milk ever again. That cheese is something that I've put in the category of occasional treat, and it's not like a food substance anymore. I didn't even realize how much I was having cheese. And this, like, I did make this adjustment years ago. I was always making cheese crisps to eat with my avocado. So like as a little dipping element. And then I learned about the whole like dairy having like addictive properties to it. And it really made me start to question, like, how did I go from having cheese crisps once in a blue moon to like having it several times a week? And I was like, you know what? There might be something to this. And I stopped making them. I'm lucky in the sense that when I see an idea that makes sense to me, I'm really good at making a decision and implementing. Not everybody's that good at just like turning their mind around and saying, nope, not doing that anymore. Because I think not everybody really takes it as seriously and sees the implications of repeated doing of bad behavior. I see the outcome of repeatedly doing bad behavior because, like years ago, it happened where my bad behavior of eating a pound of sugar a day, I didn't even know I was doing it, but I was doing it, led to me being harmed, right? That led to me not being able to walk. 23 years of pain that I lived to end in the spot where I couldn't step up and down the stairs, wellness warrior. So that allowed me to say, okay, I didn't know that that was a problem and I had to fight my way out of it. Today, every time I find out about a problem, I change it. And I've gotten really good at it. I learn it's a problem, I change it. Thank you for letting me know that that was Pennsylvania. Cool. Thank you, GDB, Pennsylvania. That's cool. Ginger Bear, best tool to get for calculating carbs, calories, etc. is a CGM. Is a CGM a good idea? I'm planning to try one out. I want to. So I've heard some interesting information recently, and I want to test some things. So the best tool that I have is I use Chronometer, which is a free app. I'm not sponsored or anything. It's just a free app. I used it, and I still use the free version. It's a nice way to just quickly, you can jump in, you can check to see like, oh, even when I'm at a restaurant. So when I was doing keto and I would go out to eat, I would pull up Chronometer and I would just try my best to guesstimate like if I had a salad, like, okay, how much lettuce do I think this is? Now it's a guess, right? But because I was weighing everything at home, I was like, I would say I probably was pretty good at guessing how much was what, because just to tell you how much I am, when I'm cooking for myself, Pat, and the kids, regardless, well, okay, let's go back to when I was doing keto. When I was doing keto, I would separately weigh our salads up. So the kids, they're having, like, if we have big salads, they have big salads too. They actually like big salads. And I would separately weigh our salads out. So I knew what 200 grams of salad looks like. And then I knew what 100 grams of salad looks like because of like different portion sizes for the kids and us, and right. So like I was fully able to look at what was going on and be like, okay, that's about that much salad, like lettuce, I should say, right? Lettuce. And then I would start looking at, okay, so there's this and there's that. And I would sit there before I ate anything and just pick out all the ingredients and be like, okay, I think there's about that much of that, that much of that. Now, I did also make changes to my orders so that there was only veg in there that I knew I was able to eat. So a lot of the vegetation was out. Like there was no peppers in mine, right? There were no onions in mine. So for the few things that I left in there, it was just me looking at it and saying, oh, how much do I feel like that is? If I were to aggregate that together, is it a full cucumber, or is it like just half a cucumber? And I would just do some calculations. That absolutely helped me to have a good idea when I went out to try to stay under my 20. And also the fact that I always eat meat to veg. So I have to finish my meat before finishing veg. And usually that would mean that I wouldn't finish my veg, because once I finish eating meat, I have no desire to keep eating the veg. So I would make sure that I never finish my vegetation on my plate before my meat is done, which always allowed me to leave some of the vegetation back. CGMs, in Canada, we don't have a lot of access, so I can't give you a good recommendation because I don't even have a good, I don't even know if I think we only have access to the Freestyle Libre, and I mean, I've never tried it yet, so I can't give you a recommendation. However, I do think they're a great idea. Dr. Eid, did point out that like wearing a CGM is one of the best ways that you can um, know how the food is impacting you, right? You're going to eat something and then you're going to be able to look and see, like, in the next 20 minutes to an hour, what happened to my blood sugar levels. What I want to do is I want to test a CGM, and I want to test um, testing my so CGM is a continuous glucose monitor, and I want to also try a continuous ketone monitor. I wanted to try both at the same time to see like what's happening when one is saying X, what's Y, what's the other one saying? Because I'm curious to know, are there scenarios where maybe I'm high in both sugar and carb? So these are question marks. Oh, I can also say that Pat uses my Fitness Pal, I think, and he likes my Fitness Pal. I think he actually did upgrade to the paid version at one point. And I also used to use Lose It, which I think that they also allow you to track carbohydrates, free version as well. So yeah, so that would be what I would say. So Mandel, hello, how are you doing? Glad you can make it here. Every honest self-help health book I've read, even the propaganda leads to your conclusions. Even the vegan supplement to high heaven to get nutrients the plants disrupt. Yeah, this is known information. It's part of the reason it's so frustrating to me. It's not that we don't know. We've known this information for quite some time. The sugars in dairy cause inflammation. I can't believe it. It's my favorite. Oh, you just reminded me about something, Kay. Thank you for saying that. Um, Not only do the sugars in dairy cause inflammation, because they're going to contribute, of course, but um, lactose is galactose, right? That's the actual sugar. It's a sucra it's a sorry, it's a glucose and a galactose molecule together that makes lactose. So the galactose molecule, the other unfortunate reality for us, that molecule is only is like mostly metabolized by our liver as well. So it's just a bad time. Like it's like 90 is 90% metabolized by our liver. So the same way that that alcohol is metabolized by your liver 90%, and then that other 10% goes to your mind to make you wonky. um Galactose is the same. So not only are we harming our insulin levels, but we're also harming our kidney function, especially if we're doing, anyways, it's not a good time. Chris, hello. Hi, Violet. Could you explain the concept of the body going into starvation mode and if extended fasting is a trigger for this? It's not. So, starvation mode is when we don't have enough to eat. So, for example, when we are, so if we're forced into a situation where we're not allowed to eat enough, then our body is, you're getting some food but not enough food. Your body is not healthy. That's not a healthy state. But you only can actually get into starvation mode if you don't have enough food, period. So like this is one of those situations where we've been told that, like, taking carbohydrates down is going to put us into starvation mode. But the question that I will put to you is, how is that even possible? If you stop and think about it, when you're doing a well formulated keto diet, for example, the number one thing you're doing is eating enough. So you are bringing your carb count down, but you're increasing your energy by increasing your fat amount, right? We are not doing lean meats ever on a keto diet, on a carnivore diet. So, and on keto, you're eating to satiation every single meal, compared to on low calorie diets, many people finish eating and are still hungry. So just even that distinction right there eating until you're satiated, and satiated means that I had enough food, I'm not hungry anymore, versus eating until your plate is done and still being hungry. Obviously, the one where you ate until you're satiated cannot put you in the starvation mode. That's not possible. So that's part one. But if you do these calorie restriction diets, and especially if you're restricting to the point where you're not getting enough energy in, which is what happened in the Minnesota starvation study, semi-starvation study back in the 1970s that Ansel Keys did. Yes, those people were starving. They were not eating enough to sustain their body, and they were rapidly losing weight, and they were not doing well. And so, yes, they had repercussions, right? Their health deteriorated, their body was falling apart, so they had repercussions. So that's the distinction that I would make. So let me just make sure I got that concept and extending fasting. Yeah. So, okay, let me go further and talk about extended fasting a bit. Why doesn't extended fasting put you in starvation mode? So the number one thing I want us to understand is it depends on how extended you're talking about, and it depends on where your body is starting from. So if I were to do an extended fast longer than 5 months, I'd probably be in starvation mode. If I did an extended fast more than 7 days, I don't think I would be in starvation mode, but I would probably feel hungry. So in either one of those situations, would it be smart for me to keep fasting? Well, no, because number one, I don't have a need to. But number two, if my body doesn't get to the part where it stops asking for food, and if I start to be, and I'm hungry, the possibility exists that I would start to, I'm going to be using energy off my body that I don't need to be using because I'm actually at a healthy weight right now. But I still wouldn't be in starvation mode because I'd still be able to think clearly, although I'd probably be thinking about food a bit because I'm hungry, but I'd still be able to think clearly. So part of the starvation mode is that I stop being able to function and I'm not doing well. When we do a normal fast and we go as long as it feels comfortable to fast, which for some people can be 30, 40, 50, 80, 90, 100 days, they're able to do that because they have energy and protein on their body that they can use. I'm saying protein because it's important for us to understand that when we are doing these extended fasts, it's not just that we're living off fat. All the repairs that my body needs to do are happening because my body can recycle the proteins that are on me. So I feel like this idea that we're going to be in starvation mode doesn't play out on a person who has extra body weight, who has things that their body can be healing because they are able to pull from themselves and use some of these things to keep moving forward. You only will go into starvation mode when the body can't do that anymore. So extended fasting, the benefit, as I said earlier, once you get to 18 hours, your body starts to get into this repair mode. And by the way, if I don't do some extended fasting, my body struggles to get into that repair mode. So once we're in that repair mode, your body's repairing things. And it wouldn't make sense for you to not feel good if it wants to repair stuff. So you do feel good. And then when we get into 24 hours, that ramps up. You get some things like brain-derived neurotropic factor goes up a bunch. Human growth hormone goes up like by 500%. Your body is basically like building like crazy once you hit 24 hours. And that like keeps ramping up right up until 72 hours where it seems to level off. So everything you do from 72 hours forward, it's kind of level, but it's high level cleanup, high level repair, according to Dr. Ekberg. Like your body is just working. And then once you get past the point where like your body starts to be like, okay, is asking for food again, like sincerely asking for food, that's when I tell most people to stop. Why? Because your body's asking for food, right? It did as much cleanup as it wanted to do in that phase, and is asking to be back to refueling it with like external. Now, there are some people that push through that and they keep going forward. And they get to that another wave of like, I feel okay. But again, I don't tell people to do that. Why? Because why? That's, in my opinion, my humble opinion, that's trying to force your body to lose weight when what your body was happy to do was repair you. Because if my body did the repairs that it wanted to do, and now is saying, okay, let's take a break, give me some food, let me know, like, then why not take a break, give yourself some food, move forward, and then in a few weeks, do another one. We don't do that, and we try to force our body to go like a month at a time because we are not happy with how we look, not understanding that we're looking the way that we look because our body was saving us from ourselves. Yes, we gain weight, or in my case, have inflammation, or in some other people's place, have skin problems, or we have all these things because our body is saving us from the toxic high levels of sugar and other plant toxins that are coming into our body on a daily basis, saving us from the sugar and other toxins or chemical processes that are being spiked by the dairy that we eat, saving us from all these mistakes we're making with our food because we're not eating meat, fish, poultry, eggs, and stopping there. By putting weight on us or storing it or putting it in our skin or putting it in inflammation or it's doing whatever it can to keep us alive, Wellness Warrior. And then we try to force it when we figure something out. Oh, that's going to make me lose weight. And we're trying to force weight loss when our body is trying to heal. Please, 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 please don't do that. Let your body heal. Extended fasting is great because it allows my body to heal. If you're trying to use it for weight loss, I personally think that's a mistake. I know that there might be a few doctors that say, oh yeah, you can do that. I'm telling you, in my personal humble opinion, now that I understand what my body was trying to do, I see that as a huge mistake. Fast. I'm not saying not to fast for the right reason. Because when I fast, my body will heal itself and it's going to tell me when to stop. When I get that signal that sticks with me that says, you need food, and rather than trying to power through it, I listen to my body, right? Not the same thing as a little moment where you drink some water and you feel fine. I'm talking about when you get those serious signals that your body is asking you for food. Give it food. Ginger Bear, thank you for answering all my questions. Very inspired to keep listening and learning. I'm so happy. Thank you for letting me know that this was helpful. 90% of your story sounds like mine. Thank you. New sub here. Oh, I'm glad that this is helpful to you, Azuria. I'm so happy that this is helpful to you. But sharing our stories is what will help other people to know that there's an answer out there, right? That I was 80 pounds heavier than this and I look like I do now. And I feel like I do now because I can run around and play with my kids and my nephews and nieces and just do all the fun things. You can't imagine how happy I am. Hello, Paul. I have 200 pounds to lose and trying to do carnivore, but struggling with not eating veggies and sweets. Any suggestions on how to do the carnivore when starting? The carnivore when starting. So my question to you, Paul, is, are you trying to do carnivore because you think you have to? Because I would much prefer to see you choose healthy vegetables and focus your attention on removing the sweets. When you get that accomplished, like the sweets are gone. So like any sweets, I would encourage you, because you're telling me, Paul, that sweets are a thing for you. I would even say Do not have sweet tasting vegetables. Focus all of your time and energy on healthy vegetables that are low in carbohydrate and making sure that whatever you eat for the entire day falls under 20. And when you feel like you got that's easy to do. I do that in my sleep, Violet. Whether I'm at home, I'm out with friends, I go to a restaurant, I'm at my mom's place, no matter where I am, nobody shakes me. I eat low glycemic vegetables and meat. When you have that down, then you start pulling some of those vegetables up if you want to. Because the other piece of the puzzle, I'm going to guess, is that if you do everything I just said and you don't have the sweets, that means no soda, no diet soda. Like, get all the sweet, anything that tastes sweet to you, gone. And anything that starts to taste sweet to you as you're going along, gone. So, for example, like I said, nuts did not originally taste sweet to me. As I progressed, I started to taste the sweet in nuts. They had to leave. If you can do that, Paul, I predict, this is me guessing, that you'll start to lose weight. And you'll be on a nice progression. Might not be fast, but it will be a progression. Now, if it's easy, like once you get to be, I'm doing veggies, I'm doing all of this, when it starts to feel like I got this, I'm not shakeable. Nobody can shake me. If you want to go to carnivore, you absolutely can. The thing that I'm going to point out, and I keep saying this because it's so important, whatever got me to this point, I need to understand that that's my minimum to stay here. It's my minimum. So if I force myself to do carnivore, but I hate it and I'm just doing it because I'm trying to lose 200 pounds, but then I get to my goal weight and I bring back the veg, what's going to happen? My weight's going to rise. Even if I'm doing healthy vegetables, my weight's going to rise. I got here on carnivore. So my suggestion, let's start keto and just see, how does it feel? Am I good? Am I solid? And then when you're good and solid and there's no sweets, if you want to go carnivore, if you think, you know what, I want to be forever carnivore, that's actually my goal. Listen, I'm the happiest person right now and I'm carnivore. I love the ease at which I make meals. I love that I even love that I eat 3 things on rotation while in this order. Because it's easy. I don't have to think too hard about what supper is going to be. That's me. So Paul, if that sounds like you, yes, we can get there. If that sounds like you, that you would rather spend your fun time out with friends, riding something, climbing something, watching movies, building puzzles, whatever it is. If you would rather use your fun time doing something else and not be focused on food, I totally get it because that's me too. We'll get you there. So please, Paul, can you do me a favor? I don't ask for much, but can you come back next week and tell me like what you decided to do and like how it's progressing? That I think would be helpful. I'm here every Monday. So that would be helpful for me to know if you were able to start, if you're having any stumbling blocks, because I think when you're doing one thing, so I'm keto, this is what I'm trying to do, this is how I'm doing it, we can have a different kind of conversation at that point, because then you can let me know what you're trying, where the stumbling blocks are. But I'm not sure if you're telling me you're going from standard diet to carnivore, because I just think that that's hard. Some people are going to be able to do it. But if you find yourself struggling, it's probably because there's a step in there that you could do to make your life work better and help you to understand the impact of these foods on you. Heyday. Where do you get continuous ketone monitors? Wow, never heard of that one. I just searched it online. Not necessarily suggesting any of them. I just searched it online. Dr. E told me that they were available, and I just went searching. So I don't have a particular one to suggest to you, unfortunately. And am I most of the time in ketosis? So here's another interesting thing about and this is part of the reason I want to have both. I want to have a glucose monitor and a ketone monitor, because you're always showing ketones when you have your a monitor. So like I want to have both so I can see, well, what's happening on the sugar side. Dr. Bickman made a statement years ago that has stuck with me about the fact that when we're metabolically healthy, we're doing both. We're back and forth between sugar burner and ketone burner. Is not one or the other, it's both. And he also pointed out that even on a standard American diet where we are glucose burning predominantly, you will always be burning a little bit of ketones. And that played out with another doctor supporting that idea, and I'm not going to remember his name right now. I liked him. He was a Indian guy, I believe. And he completely did this explanation of ketone burning and how when the brain, so when you have a little bit of ketones in the body, um, it like your brain gets that. But when you have, the more ketones you have in the body, the more your brain gets them. And he like was showing this pathway that they found, and like, and it was just crazy to me that basically what's happening is that the more we produce ketones, the more our body runs on, our brain runs on ketones, which shows a preference of the brain to run on ketones. And we've been forever told that our brain prefers sugar, and it's not true. I wish I can remember this doctor's name right now, but that stuck with me, and that was at the beginning of my keto journey that I found that piece of information before Dr. Bickman even said what he said, and then Dr. Bickman came along and backed it up, and I was just like, wow, how we've been lied to, being told that our brain prefers sugar when it's clearly not the case. Drink 2 quarts of water and a half teaspoon of salt in the morning before breaking my fast in the afternoon. That's an interesting way to get some salt in the system. I would not. I don't. I always salt my meat. I don't salt my water ever. I've never heard it taught that way. I finally makes sense to me. I was fasting for the wrong reasons. I'm so happy, Azuria, that I was able to help you with that. That's amazing. Thank you very much for letting me know that that was helpful. I feel like it can be complicated, but it's not. And it's sometimes I make it complicated. I'm sorry, but like it can be very simple, right? If I'm fasting for good health, my body will regulate its weight eventually. And if I give my body time to clean up, it's obvious my body will regulate the weight because it doesn't have to keep storing the negatives away. But then it's when I come back to eating food, I need to eat the right food. So Mandel goes on to say, if you don't have the right food ready, if I don't have the right food ready, I cheat with junk. Whenever I forget the water, I ain't right. Okay, preempting Thursday. Okay, that's really cool advice, Mandel. Thank you very much for sharing that. It is amazing to me that we don't really consider that being prepared is important. But I can tell you that when I started my keto lifestyle, before I even before I even did my first day, I went grocery shopping and I bought the vegetables that I was planning to cook so that I had the vegetables. And then I cooked a week's worth of food because I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a reason not to eat on plan. So that was me acknowledging what Mandel just said, that if we don't have the right things, we won't do it. Hello, FR Humphrey. Glad to have you here. So I keep hard-boiled eggs ready in the fridge for when I'm looking for a quick snack. It helped me to avoid the chips and junk food that my family still eats. Grum, that's a really important tip to have and thing to do. And I think that the other piece of the puzzle, and I'm going to put out there for everyone, is deciding on eating meals. So we look to snack because snacks are an option. If the day that I decided that I was only eating meals, it was easy, well, easier for me to say no to the cashews. I only eat meals, right? So any in between times, I wasn't having any. And eventually I changed it to I only eat healthy food. And that allowed me to not eat the cashews at all because I stopped seeing them as healthy because obviously they were causing me to chase. But if we start with I only eat meals, might that help you to eat meals? And then eventually we can upgrade it to I only eat healthy food so you can be sure that whatever you're putting on your plate is qualified for, from your point of view, as a healthy food. You also drink some broth on cardio days when you sweat a lot. Yeah, bone broth is amazing. It's such a healthy thing for us to have. OMAD, extended water fasting, and carnivore healed every health problem I had, and I lost 186 pounds. It's been 15 months to the day. Congratulations, carnivore at 60. 15 months to the day. Can I just say that that's wicked important? Some people do need to step to carnivore to get the health benefits. But again, some people can do it from I did it from keto, and I leveled up with carnivore. And I think that all versions of this are amazing. I'm impressed with the every health problem you had. I wish you, if you want to give me a bit of a list, I wouldn't mind knowing like what the health problems were carnivore at 60, because that's just wicked. That's so wicked. Thank you for sharing that. I can relate to sugar cravings. Ditch the sugar first. Watch out for sources. I found myself reaching for sneaky sugars. It's worth it. I'm 51, 2 weeks in. The pain I had is gone. Isn't it amazing how quickly the pain resolves itself? That's the part to me that's worth everything. This is why I get so frustrated when people say, "Oh, I did carnivore, but then I stopped." Is because they were doing it for weight loss and they didn't give themselves the chance to see the other things that were happening, the positives that were there. They didn't give themselves a chance to see that they were having that positive outcome. And it's so sad, right? Because if they had given themselves to see that they were the chance to see that they were having that positive outcome, maybe they would have stuck with it. Hello, sing it. I left my headset in another purse. Catch you on the replay. What is your movement plan for winter? Hubby's on board with rebounding. Will probably get us through winter. I love it. Um, I'm hoping to ski and snowboard this coming winter. That would be amazing if I can get on the hill weekly would be amazing. Don't know if that's gonna happen. I do plan to keep climbing since that's indoors anyway. I'm gonna keep climbing. Um, Obviously we can still go for walks and stuff like that. So I definitely will want to go for some walks. But if I could be on the hill more this coming season, that would be my ideal story. Um, One of the benefits of getting closer to the 60s is that I'm going to be able to qualify for those reduced passes when you go when you go skiing and snowboarding. I look forward to that. Sugar and carbs are the enemy. I do agree with you. Uh, um, let's see, Mandel. Because we're so accustomed to sugar drinks, when I get thirsty, I'm in motion to get the sugar. I'm in motion to get a sugary drink. I try not to get thirsty. Ah, okay, so I don't need brain power to remember. You know what, Mandel? That's an interesting point. What I would love to see you do is have a conversation with yourself that starts before you're in motion too. Like what are the things that you drink that are about helping your body, which obviously water is a great one. So if I let myself, if I do happen to get thirsty, if I let myself think about water as the best thing for me, would it just automatically become the thing I think about? So I put that for you to think. Cured my type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, neuropathy, sleep apnea, enlarged heart, arthritis, depression, um, atrophy, and so much more. I was almost dead 16 months ago. I could not walk. Entrapped nerve. Oh no, healed the entrapped nerve just in the last 6 to 8 weeks. Carnivore at 60. That's amazing. I would, you know what? What you're telling me is making me want to talk to you a bit more. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, if you can send me an email at um, contact road to health at gmail.com. I definitely would love to talk to you. Maybe we can share your story, because that's impressive that what you've overcome. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Um, Azaria, is there any way to email you? You have such blessing, just the first. Depending on what you want to email me about. I just gave my contact email. If you want to email me, that would be fine. Okay. You were suffering for 14 years. Okay. I'm looking forward to having a chat with you. And at this moment, it looks like we are at the end of the comments and questions. As a matter of fact, contact road to health at gmail.com if anyone wants to share their story. There is a link in the description, actually, that you can also click on to share your story. I definitely do check that as well. So, but if you send me an email that you saw today's video, like send me an actual email just straight to my email address, I'm going to take a look at what you have to say, and we will try to make an appointment and have a chat, because some interesting. I'm very happy that I had the opportunity to talk to you, Carnivore, at 60 today. Wellness Warriors, I will talk to you next week on Monday at 11:20. There's a video linked below that you're very likely going to be interested in about keeping ourselves healthy. And I will talk to you guys again very soon. Have a great rest of your day.